It's the thing that most kids these days seem to love, but a lot of parents hate. That's right, Fortnite, the online cross-platform dopamine and adrenaline-pumping sensation that's taken the gaming world by storm. Welcome to Thought Through My Eyes. So what exactly is Fortnite, and is it actually bad? Fortnite is a first-person shooter game, which means you see the game from the perspective of a shooter. Nothing new in that, right? It's multi-platform, which means that it's available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Mac, and even iPad and Android devices. It's also cross-platform, which means that players on different devices can actually play each other in the same game. Now, the game itself is free to download and play, but don't be fooled. There's lots of cash to be made by the developers and players too. More of that later. There are now literally millions of players, both adults and children, playing the game across the world. So what's the problem? Well, in a word, it's obsession. And that obsession is brought about by a number of factors. Each Fortnite game or round is like a tournament that's played in real time by 100 players selected randomly from across the plethora of game servers around the world, or at least region by region. For the standard gaming mode, each game is time-boxed, meaning there's a limited time to reach the goal, and the creators of the game used a clever device for time-boxing, being the presence of an encroaching storm with its eyes shrinking at predetermined countdown intervals. This is intended to push the surviving players into an ever-decreasing geographical zone, and that stops the players from simply wandering around the island like they're on holiday and just hiding out. You have to stay within the eye of the storm or die. The second factor is extreme goal orientation. The aim is to be the last player standing, and it's reminiscent of something like the Hunger Games, and we all remember how intense that was. This goal orientation is enhanced by the player death toll live count. Well, to be honest, it's a countdown of surviving players, but you can do the easy arithmetic if you've got time between no-scoping, being no-scoped, building, and just trying to survive. Apart from the obsession factor, there are a couple of other things that will definitely annoy some, if not all, but the most patient and tolerant parents and guardians. Remember what I said about the game being free to download and play? Well, that is true, but there's a possible snag. Players can earn in-game Fortnite currency called V-Bucks, but it takes a long time to get enough to buy something actually desirable. So you guessed it, players pull out the plastic or PayPal and just buy extra moolah. So parents, make sure your payment arrangements are locked on your devices. The extreme goal orientation of the game means you cannot ask, nag, harangue, plead, remonstrate or demand that a child leave a game that hasn't concluded, even if they've been playing tournaments for a long time, for hours, because this could be detrimental to your health. Well, you can try to get them off, but expect big trouble, tantrums, mood swings and even possible violence. It's called rage quit, and it could happen if a parent is demanding that a game time is up, or if you're at the end of a long losing streak. Careful parents, you could end up with a smashed television or a monitor. Check out Rage Quit on YouTube for clips of that. It's this element of the game that is most annoying and worrying to parents. It's not really the kids' fault though, not alone. The culprit is that old neurotransmitter dopamine. And putting it simply, dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which means it carries signals in the brain between cell connections, and it's associated with both drive or motivation and reward, which may be experienced as pleasure at reaching the intended goal. Scientists think it evolved to help us go after what we need to survive and to learn to do that over and over again. Increasing dopamine levels has been associated with all sorts of addictions, from recreational drugs to gambling and so on. Pretty much anything that you can get addicted to, dopamine could be involved with that. Remember, Fortnite is extremely goal-oriented, and it is precisely this that brings the dopamine surge, which drives the player onward in search mode and delivers the kick to the pleasure centre in the brain, especially if they win the game. Now, if they don't win, depending on the levels of dopamine produced, they could resemble something like a strung-out addict looking for that fix. So what are the positives to this game, Fortnite? Well, there's always more than one way to look or think about things, right? So it couldn't be all bad. And, well, the number one positive for a lot of folk is money. And there's definitely money to be made if you hone your skill to the point that you're ready to play and win Fortnite competitions. And that means a lot of game practice, sorry parents, but and there are actually Fortnite competitions in the world with a lot of money attached. And some players have made tens of thousands of dollars in competitions in a very short time. Also, some of the best players, or at least those who are reasonably good and entertaining at the same time, are able to make serious money streaming their live play. The incredible popularity of the game has meant that people will pay to watch the best. And in that sense, the game could be seen like any other sport, where the elite players make a living and have a multitude of adoring fans. But in Fortnite, someone who can play well and who can also commentate their game in an amusing and entertaining way can build a loyal following. I see this as sort of emblematic of a whole paradigm shift in the pay-per-view entertainment industry. Just like elite athletes, some players have gone professional and they don't need a day job anymore. Yay! The game seems to be inherently democratic or egalitarian. For instance, players can't just simply pay to win by buying superior firepower and dominating the game just because they happen to have more V-Bucks or real-world currency to do that. Instead, everyone starts each game with pretty well nothing, and you have to work out the game to your best advantage. So there are elements of strategy and planning that are useful skills for the people in the real world. Your kids will be learning useful skills there too. And contrary to a lot of media reports, the game is not actually that violent when compared with other FPS games rated MA and above. Yeah, there's a lot of shooting and killing, obviously, but it's not that gory. And the animation is rather simple and perhaps even a little kitsch. And speaking of kitsch, what do the players use their V-Bucks to buy if not game advantage? Well, as a reflection of the meme-driven culture, our meme-driven culture, it's things like funky and groovy dance moves. And I'm saying funky and groovy because some of the moves look pretty retro. And players can also buy glam skins that help them stand out from the crowd. So even though it's quite democratic and egalitarian, as I said, there is an element of status there. You may say, what's the big deal? What is the big deal? Eventually Fortnite will go the way of Doom and Quake if you're old enough to remember those games. But remember, since Fortnite has been such a huge success and financially lucrative to the developers, there are bound to be other games coming to market which mimic that format. So the issues and potential benefits, if you see it that way, they're here to stay, at least for a while. In the end, of course, it's up to parents to decide whether to let their kids play the game and the amount of time they spend on it. Like everything in life, there's always more than one way to look or think about it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit the like button and go ahead and subscribe too so I can get my dopamine fix. That way you can support the channel in a very small but important way. I've included some links in the video description if you're interested in learning more about dopamine too. I'm Dean, and that's it from Thought Through My Eyes.